You're listening to Beat Autoimmune and Thrive, the podcast all about reversing and preventing autoimmune conditions so you can live your most vibrant life as soon as possible. We talk about autoimmune root causes, actionable solutions, and inspirational healing stories. I'm Palmer Kippola, and I used to have MS. Today, I'm an author, a speaker, a functional medicine certified health coach, a pickleball player, and nature lover who's helped thousands of people reclaim their health and their best lives. Let's dive into this episode. Welcome back. Elyse Wagner is a certified nutritionist and a licensed mental health counselor. She's the co-founder of the Functional Medicine Coaching Academy. She's the author of the book Self-Care and Lifestyle Planner, and she's also the creator of the Nourished Life Academy, where she teaches people to become their own chief well-being officers. Elyse has a dual master's from Bastyr University in both nutrition and clinical health psychology, and she's also studied with the Institute for Functional Medicine. Now, beyond professional degrees, Elyse has also battled anxiety, depression, autoimmunity, weight fluctuations, low self-worth, and confidence. And I have known Elyse since my wonderful experience with the Functional Medicine Coaching Academy. And I've asked her to come on today to discuss self-care, which is an essential and timely and yet often overlooked topic, especially when it comes to healing from an autoimmune disorder. So it's not a moment too soon. Welcome, Elyse.
Thank you. Thank you, Palmer. And thank you to everyone listening today. I'm excited to be here.
Me too. And I always love to start with story. And you're now an advocate for self-care, and this comes from deep personal experience. So I wonder if you would walk us through your own healing journey.
Sure. Well, I'm going to walk you way back first, and then we might kind of jog a little bit and run to the middle section to bring us up to speed to where we are now. But my healing journey started when I was 13 years old, and I was overweight, taunted as obese Elyse in middle school. Who knew you could rhyme my name with something? And there you have it. And I was a pretty unhappy kiddo. And I was eating the standard American diet, and lo and behold, got the standard American disease. Sad equals sad, right? Sad in, sad out. When I was 13, I was looking at myself in the mirror, and I was saying to myself, why do I look this way? And why do I feel this way? I just knew intuitively, like from the space of like, I shouldn't feel this way. I shouldn't look this way. Something has to change. Now, this is before I knew anything about behavior change or nutrition or anything like that. I just followed my gut, my inner wisdom, which often has a lot of really amazing answers for us. And I went to my mom, who was really my first health coach, if you will. And I said to her, and if you're a mom or a mom-like figure to someone, when a teen comes up to you or any kid and says, I don't like how I look and feel, and I know that if I don't change, I'm going to go down a pretty bad path, you'll listen up. And so she really said, I'm going to help. And she helped me to find a holistic nutritionist who really took a functional medicine approach at the time. This was back in 2000. And she met with me shoulder to shoulder. She asked me a lot of open-ended questions like, what does your poop look like? And, what are your relationships like? I mean, it ran the gamut. But most importantly, she listened to me. She didn't talk over me. She didn't cut me off or interrupt. And she helped me to co-create a plan that was going to work for me with her knowledge, of course, and her expertise. But I was the one who was implementing it. And so anyways, we put a plan together. It was very simple. It was get rid of processed foods. We added in a couple supplements and put in whole real foods. Within 2 months, there was no weighing, no calorie counting. I lost 50 pounds. It was like someone just stuck a pin in me and I just shrunk. my hair started to grow, my skin cleared up, my nails were growing, and I said, holy guacamole, food is medicine, and I want to share this message with the world. And I was only 13. Who was going to listen to me at that time? So I started off and I just started reading and reading and reading. And that sent me on my journey to become a nutrition. I did my undergrad in nutrition and dietetics. And it was there that I understood that the traditional or conventional side of nutrition and what was being taught, which was not how I learned to really, step into this sphere of well-being, if you will. And what was always the driving force for me was this question of like, why is there so much information, but we're not changing?
Mm.
And that's still a driver to me. We have more information at our fingertips than we ever have. And we are so almost paralyzed, cannot make the movement forward. And we're one of the sickest countries in the United States. So that got me really interested in getting my dual degree in nutrition and clinical health psychology and really understanding how people make changes, the whole behavior change process. Well, while I was there, I got sicker than a dog. No one could figure out what was going on with me. And I was probably in what you could call the mecca of holistic health. I was in Seattle, Washington, a lot of naturopathic doctors, home of functional medicine. And I probably saw 10 or 11 different providers, all who had a different treatment plan, a different protocol, but no one had a solid answer for me. My parents wanted to pull me out of school, take me to the Mayo Clinic. And I said, no way, because I believe that when we put our bodies and our minds in environments that are healing, we really can heal ourselves. I finally saw this one functional medicine naturopathic doctor. He literally looked at me. We were talking before we started press record, like bedside manner with doctors. He had no bedside manner. I respect the man. He's amazing. But he literally, he didn't even actually look at me. He looked at my labs and my sheets and everything like that I was bringing to him. And he said, you have celiac disease. We're going to get you genetically tested. And he walked out of the room. And I'm like, okay, sure, whatever. Let's do whatever we have to do, And sure enough, a couple weeks later, got a positive, we were able to get a diagnosis of celiac. And that's really when it hit me when I was making a smoothie in my kitchen, of all things. That's the only thing I could eat and keep down. And because I had a horrible leaky gut and foggy brain and lots of other interesting symptoms going on. And I really remember thinking to myself, this isn't just about changing food. This is about changing on almost every single level that you can think of. Socially, my conversations had to change. Interactions with friends had to change. Where we ate had to change. Luckily, I had an amazing friend group. But, mentally, emotionally, environmentally, think about the environment you live in and all the things that had to shift. And physically, these shifts and these changes require a lot of change. And I wished, be careful what you wish for. I wished that I had someone similar to me who had the knowledge and the education in behavior change, in nutrition, in a little bit of functional medicine, who could be a little bit farther down the line and see kind of my gaps and be my guide, kind of like a health coach, right? And really meet me where I was at and help me get to where I wanted to go faster. Just a little, because it took me about almost a year of that struggle until I could bring my awareness to where it needed to be to make a lot of those changes. So we struggle a lot on the way. So that's a little bit, I know I'm kind of talking on and on here, but that's a little bit of my story and what got me to, my journey.
Well, it's not going on and on at all. It's in fact an evolution. You have to go through all of that. And here you are with this new diagnosis of celiac disease, and you had the wherewithal to think to yourself, I wish I could find somebody to help me through this, to guide me through the process of what do I do now, right? I mean, it sounds like the doctor makes a diagnosis, but may not have had the time, the interest, the inclination to provide the coaching for, well, how do you live? Is that what I'm hearing?
1,000,000%. I mean, I was given 2 pieces of paper, how to go gluten-free.
Yeah. Yeah.
It would have
Yeah.
been so lovely to have someone who's been through that too,
Yeah.
have some empathy
Right.
and some compassion,
That's right.
to say, let's see what this actually looks like going gluten-free, which seems so simple, written on paper. But when you really start to put it into practice and a lot of these lifestyle behavior changes, you start to integrate it into your daily life, that's really where the rubber meets the road. The theory
That's right.
doesn't always convert,
Yeah.
you know?
It's daunting. It's daunting. And so, I mean, this might jump us ahead in terms of the conversation that I want to have with you, but I'm connecting the dots forward because this is ultimately what you sought out to do, is to create this role of a health coach or health coaches that would actually provide the guidance, the lifestyle advocacy, the walking with people on their journey. Is that
Yeah,
a big
absolutely.
reason?
The support too, the
Yeah.
social, the emotional support. A lot of people who are making changes might be doing it alone, which
Yeah.
is saying isolation is, kind of like the new smoking in some respects. And on the other hand, they might be making behavior change in a family dynamic or a group that isn't always that supportive. And so that support is crucial.
Yeah.
And the doctors and the providers don't always have, many times they don't have the time or they don't have the skills. The number one skill that the health coaches have is empathetic listening. That moves mountains.
Yes.
And so yes, now we have, health coaches who are, it wasn't necessarily even on my radar to say like, oh, I had like little ideas and pops, I was like, oh, and have a school. I would always say like, I wish people could like, kind of talk or, help people the way that I might, support someone, right, in a situation, or the way I would have loved to be supported, right, and talked to during something like this. And so, yeah, now there are people who can do that, which is
Yeah.
an amazing gift.
It is. And the beauty of going through something like this yourself, like I did, having that 2 decades plus of MS and just really debilitating often symptoms and being told there's nothing you can do except take medication. Well, now we know more. There is enough information on the internet. And as you talk about, like, we have a world of information, and yet we still don't make positive changes because it's really hard. But I love the fact that you have your own story, and that's what has led you on a purpose-driven mission.
Yeah, very much so. And I would also add to that is because there's like this plethora of information, um, oftentimes, we can certainly, we've also been taught to search outside of ourselves for the answers.
Yes.
The doctor, the provider, this nutritionist, this person might have the answers for me. Well, the truth is that you actually have the answers within you. You get to be like the chief well-being officer, kind of like you're your own healer. Because I don't necessarily believe that there's healers out there. I mean, you can only really heal yourself, truly. And I do believe you can heal 1,000,000%, especially from some of these chronic debilitating diseases of the body. And one of the ways that I have found that it's very helpful is to have your own, you can call it like your own board of advisors or your own, I call it it's my values, really. And figuring out what are my values that guide my health, that guide my life, that guide some of my decisions, because then that acts as like a filter. You can take this information and run it through your values system and come up with a choice and decision in that moment that's going to serve you, perhaps for the best. Then you can, start to make a educated decision and choice to move forward based on your values.
Yeah. Beautifully, beautifully said. So going back to this diagnosis that you experienced, and imagining what that is like and how stressful it is to get a diagnosis of any kind, at any age, at any stage. And for people who already have been dealing with something for a long time, there's sometimes a lot of stress and anxiety around new symptoms, perhaps, or whatever comes up, you know? And this is where the intersection of that experience of stress or the perception that something is out of our control, that we can't handle, or whatever it is. How did you handle the stress of that diagnosis and the uncertainty? And because this is going to tie into the whole self-care conversation about what we can do for ourselves.
Mm-hmm. So it's kind of interesting the way that you've kind of set this question up, and I'll answer it. What's coming through for me right now as I'm like looking back and thinking it through. So I remember being in that room. You know, you sit on the crinkly paper, right? My legs were kind of like dangling around. He came in and gave me these two pieces of paper and told me that I had this diagnosis. And even though I had done my undergrad degree in nutritional sciences and dietetics, I had a master's degree in nutrition, I still was not 100% aware of celiac and really what the ramifications were.
Mm.
So, and I wasn't really educated on it, you know, from my schooling. That was a whole nother thing. And then also from the provider. So I had to really take this, be my own advocate. But I remember him giving me this information. And on one hand, it was like a wave of relief. We have a diagnosis. Okay, there's something we can do about it now, right? Then there was a wave of overwhelm. And that wave seemed to hit like a wave of bricks. Because with a diagnosis, like, or with any diagnosis, I suppose, with any autoimmune disorder, whatever you might be struggling with, there's layers to it. And there's food layers, there's layers of loss and grief and guilt. And all of this can be very depleting. It can really deplete us on a lot of different levels, biopsychosocial. And so how I dealt with it was how I used to really deal with a lot of my issues, which was, let's go, take the bull by the horns. And now we got a diagnosis. I'm going to learn as much as I can about it and try and, you know, clean up as much as I can. Right. Well, again, the body has so much wisdom because the body, as I look back, you know, it doesn't always bounce back as quickly as we want. And so it's there to really kind of teach us some lessons, because I was still struggling with a lot of anxiety issues. I was struggling with a lot of body dysmorphia because I hadn't healed truly yet. So anytime I would eat anything, my little stomach would just like puff up. It looked like I was 9 months pregnant, you know? So there was a lot to kind of work through there. And it wasn't really until, I would say probably back in 2017, where this true story, I was married, running 2 businesses, just had my daughter, so a newborn, and I was trying to care for myself. I really didn't actually know what that meant or what that really looked like. I say that because I want to normalize it, because I don't know if many women or anyone, you know, many women, men and women, quite really understand what it looks like for them. Self-care looks like for them. It's not the mani-pedis and champagne toasts and massages and getaways and things like that. Sometimes self-care can just be a walk in nature, or going to stand in nature and ground, or just coming back to your breath for a few moments. You know, but I had this pretty big moment where I literally found my head inside of the fridge looking around for chocolate because I was stressed and I was totally depleted because I wasn't taking care and nourishing myself. And there was this, sometimes we get these like downloads, I call them, from the universe. And it was this voice that was like, Elyse, the answers are not in the refrigerator. Yeah. And I was like, I know. Yeah. We've got to come back to ourselves, you know, and that own inner wisdom.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's beautiful. What are you truly hungry for?
Yeah.
Right? That
Yeah.
self-nourishment
Yes.
that you talk about, which is the name of your academy,
Yeah,
right?
I mean, you can nourish yourself. I talk about this all the time. I love the word nourish because it doesn't just mean about food.
No.
It's in all aspects of and areas of your life. So
Yeah.
nourishing.
This is such an important topic now. I mean, and we've probably said this for decades and generations that this is the most stress that the world has ever been or that we find ourselves in. And it just might feel that way. And certainly adding on top of that, the stress of having an autoimmune disorder, no matter how much you're trying to heal or whatever the circumstances are, self-care is essential. And yet it sounds so airy-fairy and like, the mani-pedi that you talked about, like, I don't think that people truly understand what that means. And I would love it if you can go in any direction you want about this, but I want to really understand the definition of how would you define self-care and
Mhm.
what does it look like to be really nourished
Mhm.
from
Mm,
your perspective?
mm. It's a wonderful question. So I'll start with this mini little definition. Self-care equals self-preservation, period. We've been taught and we've grown up in the society that really, we're kind of left, the women, the moms, right? We're left at the bottom to fill everyone else's cup up first. Work, family, spouses, partners, everything else. And so it's really paradigm shifting to start with yourself first. And I've
Mm.
talked to so many women, clients, colleagues, friends, family, and it's like, I could never do that. Oh my gosh, is that even an option for me? I didn't know. It almost feels so unsafe,
Mm.
which is a basic need, by the way. We need safety. Let's talk about that for a second. I mean, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Your basic needs are safety, a roof over your house, water, food, sleep. These are basic. In full coach approach, I would always say, like, what does self-care actually mean to you? You know, if you could kind of draw a bubble, I call it wonderstorming, put self-care right in the middle, draw some spokes around it. And then just see what bubbles up to the surface and don't censor yourself with like, oh, that's right, or oh, that's wrong, or good or bad. There's nothing moralistic about it. And it's really about you, you know? So what could be really self-care and nourishing for me could just be sitting here sipping my yogi tea, you know? Yes, I love
Sure.
well-being. Cheers.
Mm.
It could be, taking a book and if I don't have an hour or half an hour to read a chapter, maybe it's just, what do I have? I could read a sentence or
Mm.
a paragraph. It's just asking ourselves the questions, what could nourish me right now?
Mm.
What can I do? Because the honest truth is that self-care it's free and available for the taking for anyone.
I love that. Can I add something to that I just struck me? As long as I'm not interrupting you. It occurred to me that I did something self-care related yesterday that I thought I had worked boundary issues out pretty well.
Mhm.
I got together with a good friend I hadn't seen in a long time, and she was talking about how she, like me, now goes to bed at 8 or 8:30. She doesn't drink alcohol anymore. She has shed 25 pounds.
Mhm.
Her energy is through the roof. And she's just made decisions. Decide means to cut from. She doesn't do certain things anymore, like go out. She doesn't eat dinner past 5 o'clock, for example. Like, oh my goodness, the woman after my own heart. And one of the things that came up for me is that we had recently been invited to a holiday cocktail party.
Mhm.
A dear friend is having 30 miles away, so up in San Francisco, and it involves alcohol. And it
Mhm.
involves staying up later than I want and probably a lot of foods that I'm not going to be eating. And when I first got the invitation, I was like, oh, how lovely. What a nice invitation. Yes, we should go. Listen to that. We should go. And after walking with my friend who was really modeling back for me or mirroring to me that self-care, that protective, beautiful self-care that I have in place, but I was allowing myself to kind of push past my own boundary. And
Ah.
I thought to myself, because I hadn't RSVP'd yet, I thought, you know what? I will see her another time
Mhm.
where we can celebrate the holidays in a way that works for me too, that it doesn't involve alcohol, doesn't involve staying up late and being with foods that I can't really. So, anyway, that's my little
I love it.
insertion of self care
Yeah.
because I thought I nailed, had this nailed, but I realized that when we have permeable boundaries, we are not honoring ourselves.
So, so many things I want to add to that. First of all, I want to say good on you for, it was like I say, treat adversity and opportunity the same, run straight at it. So that was a great opportunity, to just almost like practice your self-care strength, and your muscle. Like, wait, let me just check in with myself here. And I think that's another piece of self-care is like the pause, putting the pause in, asking the question, is this really going to fulfill me and nourish me? And you can almost do like a little pros and cons list, and see which way you're kind of leaning towards. But you did a lot of different self-care elements in there, like setting boundaries. That's huge self-care. First of all, you were with a friend. That's another form of self-care, and walking too, right? Uh, but then you also honored yourself and kept it essentially like I talk about keeping your word to yourself,
Mhm.
and honoring yourself. And your cells are 1,000,000% listening to what you're saying, what you're doing, all the time. And so, if in your body, that like, oh wow, like going to bed is my jam at this time and not eating this kind of food and being around alcohol and all of that, if that's going to permeate your boundaries essentially or your self-care, yeah, that's a beautiful description of that. And I also want to take it a step further if I can articulate this. It might come out a little bit wonky, but one of the things actually that I found very interestingly was for me when I have, autoimmune disease, which celiac, so that's going to come with leaky gut, leaky brain, all these different things. There is this physiological level, right, of having permeable boundaries within. And then that's also shown on the external as well of how I allowed a lot of different things in my life that weren't actually really serving me and where I wanted to go. And so when you can strengthen now this would be a cool research study if we could figure this out. If you can strengthen your external boundaries, your mental, emotional boundaries, what happens to your internal, gut boundaries? We're going on a whole different level there,
Oh,
but
I love it. I love it.
yeah. So I love that you did that for yourself and put yourself first and your own needs first. I think it goes back to like your needs are non-negotiable.
Yeah.
And so what do you need? I don't think we ask ourselves that question. And I'll go a little bit further. I don't think we ask ourselves that question enough or sometimes have those conversations with our friends and loved ones and then allow the answer to bubble up because it's not always like a text message that we send, and someone sends it right back to us. It's like our body takes a little bit of time to respond. Sometimes the answer's right away. Sometimes it comes in a few minutes or so. So yeah.
Thank you. That's beautiful. I wonder if you have a few, maybe one or two
Sure.
self-care practices that you feel would be really nourishing for people as they go into this holiday season. Could you offer just a couple of your favorites?
hmm So one of the things that I like to do, and this is personally for me, funny enough, I actually get very overwhelmed and overstimulated when I'm in environments with a lot of people, a lot of noises, lights, all that kind of stuff. So one of the things that I like to do before I go into those environments is I will do a little bit of a white light meditation. It doesn't need to be super long, like an hour. It could be 5 minutes. It could be 2 minutes. You can easily Google white light meditation and find something for yourself. And so getting into the practice of a little meditation. The other thing I like to do that's available to everyone anytime is your breath. And so I've taught this to my daughter as well, who's 7. She's been doing this since she was about 2, or, I could really teach it to her, but it's the candle breath. Have you heard of this one?
I don't know the candle breath.
Okay. Oh, good. Okay. So we're going to do this together. So it's really simple. And uh, you can do it like this or not, especially if you're around people. You can even do this, when you're standing in a group of people. I would say you don't need to use the finger, but we're just going to pretend that this is like a candle in front of us, and there's a little flicker and a flame that's kind of lightly, flickering. And so you just calmly breathe in through your nose. And as you release through your mouth, it's helpful to have this just as a little, just here for the idea. So you can slowly let your breath out through your mouth, almost like purse your lips. So you just let your breath out so slow, almost as if it's like barely letting that flame flicker just a little bit. What that actually does on a physiological level is it releases acetylcholine all down your spinal cord. So I don't know what you experienced as you just did that. Did you have
I relaxed.
Could you feel
My
it?
shoulders came down a little bit. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So when I practice that and do that, so again, like I could just be sitting here and go. So I don't necessarily have to do this. You could do this while you're in a group of people. It might be easier to do it alone, but you almost get like this, like let down. It's almost immediate.
Wow.
And you can come back, and your breath is so powerful. And it's just in these small, subtle little ways, that you can really come back to yourself, quite frankly.
It's beautiful. Thank you. So simple. And these are free. And it's
free for the taking. Yeah.
It's right under your nose, something we do every day, and yet we don't use our breath often enough. And just to do that practice, I invite everyone to, anytime you're consciously aware, to remember to do it. Maybe try once or twice a day. That would be so beautiful.
Yeah, it's so funny. It's, I think about tiny habits and all of that. Sometimes I look at my daughter and I'll just go, not like this to shush her, but just, and she'll know. She'll just, okay, gotta take a deep breath. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
She's 7.
She is 7. Mm-hmm.
And you're teaching her the self-regulation at age 7. Can you imagine if the whole world had this opportunity?
It gives me chills. I mean, I would love that this is taught.
Yeah.
For all of these kiddos,
I do too. And it starts with us. And it really does. And you have 2 wonderful things that I want to talk about now, one of which is your self-care planner. And can you pull it up? Because I have a Kindle version, which means that I can't pull it up and share it with people. Look at that beautiful planner.
Self-care and lifestyle planner. This is a planner I actually made when I was talking to you all about my head in the fridge. And I was like, what do I do with my life? And how do I put self-care in? And what I realized is that self-care doesn't happen unless I schedule it to happen. Just like I schedule my meetings or the podcast or, right? And we schedule all these appointments and the doctor's meetings and the business meetings and la, la, la. And it's like, what about us?
What about us?
What about us? We deserve it. You deserve to be scheduled in. Pencil yourself in. You don't have to have this planner to do it. You could do it on your phone. You could write it in a, little journal. But I want to encourage everyone. I'm a big, let's take some inspired action today. Like whatever you're feeling inspired about, what's just one thing that you could write down that's self-care for you, and just write it down. And then the next step is to keep yourself accountable and to actually do it, even if it's just for 1 minute. I'll share with you something, so in here is a monthly, it's a yearly planner. We go through the entire, this says it's monthly wonderstorming, I call it, but we wonderstorm all the different areas of well-being. You can write your goals down, get them off of your head in your heart and onto paper, because I'm telling you, when you write stuff down, it happens. And actually, there's some really good research behind it as well. When you write down, when you just say a goal, I think you're about like 10% there. When you say a goal to a friend, you're about 40% there. When you actually write it down and have an accountability partner, you jump all the way up to about 90%. It's huge. It's huge. So, yes, I am a big master of writing things down. I have to write things down. I don't know about you. I love to I like crossing it off. I like that noise.
Love it. Love it.
Little dopamine hit. Yep.
Yep. I do it. My lists.
And that goes back to our body. Like our body actually produces these, I call it like your pH, like your pharmacy. This is like your own internal pharmacy of these feel good hormones, right? So yeah, and the first thing I do every single Sunday is I schedule in time for myself, and I will plan out my whole week. I call it my thinking day, and I plan it out. So anyways, yeah, this is 50% off on Amazon through the holidays. So everyone can kind of get a chance to plan.
Fantastic.
Self-care.
I will put the link in the show notes so that you can find it easily. It's a beautiful, beautiful planner. And I plan to get a hard copy, because I wouldn't say made the mistake, but I got the Kindle version, and I, like you, love writing things down. So having the tangible paper is huge. Love that. And my understanding is that you are also having a workshop coming up for people that want a little more assistance. And I love the fact that you're doing this in community. So talk to us about that.
Yeah, so it's called the Soulful Self-Care Workshop. We're going to be getting together on December 14th from 11 a.m. Central to 1. We're going to be doing a little mini, self-care is baked into this. So a little mini meditation, a little sound bowl healing. And then we're going to kind of get to quote unquote brass tacks and really get to the nuts and bolts of planning. So you're going to leave with a plan in hand so you can really start practicing this. It's a practice in your own world. And then, of course, do it in community with other heart-centered, like-minded, mostly women, I would say. So, yeah. I love teaching this, because it's one thing to get the planner, and then it's another thing to actually use it and start bringing it into your daily life. And I think when we can truly embody this, the self-care, and the nourishment, that has a huge ripple effect. And it doesn't just impact us, it impacts the clients, the people who we might serve, and then future generations. I do a lot of self-care, so my daughter sees that. She sees what it looks like to really care for, herself. So it's important. It's really important. I think we've lost that.
Elyse, you're on a really important mission, and I'm so delighted to have had this conversation with you. I know we can talk for hours, and there's probably much more to dig into, but I think this was a perfect place to stop for now. I'm so grateful for you and the work that you're bringing to the world. And this is an opportunity for all of us to take better care of ourselves. We are responsible for our health and well-being. We didn't get an owner's manual.
Nope.
So we have to learn how to do these things, especially for women, and we're so used to caring for other people. Mm-hmm. This is truly an invitation. I feel like it's almost a prescription when I work with clients to give them permission to take care of themselves first.
Yes. Sometimes we do. We need a permission slip. Absolutely. And it's okay. It is okay to put yourself first. Yeah. You could even have that as a little mini mantra. It's okay. It's okay to put myself first, because there will be some guilt. That's a whole nother, we'll have to do another session on that.
Yeah. Push through it. Push through it. We're all in this together. You can do this. Get Elyse's self-care planner, join her workshop if that speaks to you. And Elyse, it was a joy talking with you today. Thank you so much for coming on.
It was a joy to be with you. Thank you for the work that you're doing in the world too. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you. Be well. Talk soon.
And that's a wrap. Thanks so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, share it with your friends and family, and if you feel inspired, please leave a quick review so other people can find it too. Now, if you want to beat autoimmune and thrive, make sure you sign up for my free video training at freeautoimmunetraining.com. That's freeautoimmunetraining.com, and watch the first video right away. Take good care. Bye for now.